UIC.
Freedom and people of
Hell yeah.
freedom and people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom and people of want. Freedom and people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom and people of want. Freedom and people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom and people of want. Freedom and people of need. Yeah,
Yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready for broke every chain. That when they free up the people, levitate. Jamaica.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson. Looking forward to having a good chat with you this evening about a very important topic of property ownership in Jamaica. We're going to talk about the policies of the UIC and share a little bit about what's currently happening in the marketplace and how we're going to fix a lot of those problems. I hope you can hear me clearly. I got a new mic and did a lot of work to make sure it's working. So good evening to all of you. Hello, Tracy Blake. Denroy Black, welcome. Good to see you on. Good evening, everyone. Hope you are interested in the topic of home ownership and property ownership. Jamaica has a long history of struggling with the whole business of housing the Jamaican people. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Yeah? Good. So everybody can hear me. Wonderful. Dennis Hart and Nuff and Douglas Harper. Good to see you on again. Good evening. So our topic this evening is a very simple one and one that I think should be of concern to all of us. I've entitled it Property Ownership Made Easy, because the UIC has actually found a way to make it possible for us to have a 98% home ownership rate. So we have a pretty good housing solution. And of course, what we're about to share with you, you know that the government has already stolen most of, if not all of our talking points. But the problem is in the implementation. You see, it's easy to steal somebody's ideas or words, but implementing it is another story altogether. Implementation is the problem. And we have seen that for 78 years. They have not been able to do a great job of implementing things. They can talk about them, they can make a lot of announcements, but the implementation side of it is always a problem. So we're going to talk about not just the idea, but how to implement the ideas. And we hope that after this meeting, you'll have a clearer understanding of the housing policy of the UIC and how we're going to fix the housing problems in Jamaica. So everyone, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. Get all your friends and family to be tuned in so they can hear what we're talking about this evening. So I want to kick off the discussion by making a basic statement. And here's the statement. You have a right to land. Yes, believe it or not, you actually have a right to land. And land is not something that you should really be purchasing, even though they have trained us into the idea of purchasing land. Normally, you shouldn't be purchasing land unless you're doing something, excessive, a massive project, and you need to acquire lands to do so. But if you think about it carefully, you should have inherited land from your parents, from your grandparents, from your great-grandparents. The problem is that when they enslaved our people, they stole our lands, and then later on they made those lands into crown lands. And since the time of slavery to now, you would think that our leaders would have understood the injustice that was done to you, to me, to all of us, and they would have subsequently made some changes to recognize that we need to pay reparation to ourselves, to our people. We need to make sure our people have land. But unfortunately, for the last 78 years, they've been with us talking about crown lands and talking about land reform and talking about land leases and so on. And the net result of this is that today, home ownership is severely unaffordable for most Jamaicans. You cannot afford a home. If you're a young person today, just leaving university, you're like, how will I ever be able to a home for my family? And that is by design. They have designed the system to ensure that it's very difficult for you to have a home. And if you do get one, you pay for it for life. For the most part, you're going to have a 30, 40-year commitment, which is your entire life. You think about it. You leave college at, say, 25 years old or 23, depending. I left at 23. And you're going to spend the next 30, 40 years paying a mortgage, which makes you a slave. That's what a mortgage is. It's enslaving you and taking away your economic freedom. And so I want to make it clear to all of us that you have a right to land, and now we have to figure out how to address that and return that right to you. The UIC is going to right this wrong by making every Jamaican a property owner via what we call generational wealth principle. Now, you have all probably heard about generational wealth before, and it's something very common in the world of the Europeans. They've done a great job of amassing wealth and transferring that wealth from generation to generation. Most of us Jamaicans have had to find a way to create our own wealth at whatever age, and many times there's nothing left for us to hand down. Some have left lands for their children and grandchildren, which is good. But generally speaking, we don't do a good job of transferring wealth from one generation to the next within the Black community. So we have to fix that. So the UIC has a plan that is going to help us to have affordable housing, but not the little boxes you see right now. If you look, you see the government gave us these NHD houses, some little boxes. And these boxes are just really ridiculous, to be honest. And then you have to spend a lot of money trying to build, add on 1 room, 2 room, and for the most of the country, littered incomplete homes. Some raw blocks, some steel sticking out, some walls that have been rendered for years, and it's just sitting there, not very healthy, not very pleasant to the sight, and so we need to find a way to change that. And so the UIC has designed a model to change that. But everything has economic consequences. So you have to be careful of the economics of what you're doing. So what we want to do, I want to say this. The government has a massive amount of land, which is called crown lands. So we're going to divest those lands. We're going to make sure those lands move from being government owned to being lands that are under production. So they're going to be producing food, or being used for some other form of industrial activity that is productive and profitable and also clean for the environment. And so we need to find which industries we need to use, which industries can we use to help us to afford putting our citizens into affordable homes of good quality that is going to allow them to live a decent life here in Jamaica without having to migrate to some other country. So we have the model, with the system. Our system begins with the idea that if you were to use the Singaporean model of creating middle to high density condominiums in places where you currently have ghettos and garrisons and squatter communities, and you clean up those areas, and you're going to transition them out of the kind of space that they are to spaces that different strata, income stratas, can fit in them without feeling uncomfortable because of the. And this was done very, very effectively in Singapore, in that they were able to create these beautiful spaces where you have parks, you have community centers, you have restaurants, you have lots of green spaces around. You even include on the building itself structures that you can actually grow things on, and you build into it water harvesting capacity to capture water from surfaces designed for you to harvest potable water. So you're doing a lot of engineering that is going to make the place pleasant, green, healthy, and very good for a community. You're going to make it so attractive that it's appealing to the upper class, the middle, and the lower class, so to speak. The goal is to kind of change the whole texture of the society so that we don't have this clarity of lower class, middle class, upper class. You just have very nice buildings which allow people of different income levels to fit into these buildings. And so when you create these condominiums, I'm going to show you in a bit how it's done. I'm going to show you a video that explains it, how one country did it, and how we can build on that model. So what we're going to end up with are concentrated areas of nice high-rise condominiums, well designed for the environment. So you want to make sure that you position them properly for lighting, for wind movement, for rain harvesting, for solar energy harvesting. You ensure that you have a nice mix for those who have young families, those who are senior citizens. You want to make sure you have the roads and the sidewalks built for the able-bodied and the disabled. You want to make sure you have safe spaces for children, for young families. So you want to really design this for equitable living. But what you're going to be doing is putting a large portion of your population in these condos. This is going to leave a vast amount of good quality lands available now for production, which is very important. The goal is to make sure we're not using good lands that are for agriculture. Yeah, that you're not using good lands which are for agriculture and using those good lands for building houses. And I hope you can hear me clearly. Yeah. So good King, good night, Unity, or Elsa, I think it is, or Elsie. I'm going to talk about that issue that you're raising about giving away lands. We're not going to just give away land. What we're doing is a structured program here that is going to make sure that we have a solid economy and at the same time have very high quality housing. Notice I'm stressing high quality housing. This is very important. So what we're going to have here right across the country are these nice pockets of beautifully designed condominiums. And once we have those in place, how do you finance it? So the land itself that we have in Jamaica, all of this land, the people of Jamaica. So we need to give that land back to the people of Jamaica. But you can't just give people land like that, because the truth of the matter is not everyone will know what to do with it. Not everyone will have an interest in doing farming with it. So you'll see a lot of land that's just sitting around idle. So the goal must be to put our good lands under production, but then make sure people have quality housing. Land is going to be used primarily for agriculture, tourism, industry. And then the high-rise buildings, so we go up, we don't go wide, we don't spread out and use up all of our land and damage all of our good farmland. So we're going to go up instead of going wide. Right now, the policy of the government is mostly going wide as opposed to going up. We're going to go up. Now, with going up, we're going to be able to get 98% of our population owning a decent home, 2, 3, 4 bedroom condominiums, nice. Intergenerational. So here you're going to have a lovely home, which will be intergenerational, passing down from one generation to the next. The way we're going to structure these homes and these condos is such that property management. So we're not going to leave it to the citizens to decide the upkeep of the building. We're going to put proper rules and guidance in place, proper policing in place, but we're going to have a property management company which manages all of these condominiums so that they never decline in their appearance if them are kept up and the quality of experience of the citizens are kept up as well. So you'll all have the decent gardens, the swimming pool, the community center with the gym, the digital library infrastructure will be there, the play area for the children or the toddlers will be there, and all of that. So we're going to make sure that you have a well-managed society, safe, clean, and orderly. You always hear me talk about that. Safe, clean, and orderly. So we're going to make sure we have that at all times. Now, once we have this in place, you need to have an economic engine. Now, the construction itself is going to create a period of economic boom. That massive construction of all of these condos and getting families into them and so on, that's going to create its own economic boom. But you need something more sustainable that's going to carry on beyond just the that one time, even though it's over a number of years, but it's still a one-time economic boom created by the constructions that we're doing, right? There's also going to be a continuous GDP impact of the maintenance contract of these facilities, the longer-term mortgage payments that will happen for the home themselves of the family, as well as the strata fees to participate in the maintenance. But that's fine. That will be a part of the economic model. But a bigger part of the model is if you look at the density of housing on one side, the density of housing on one side, and then you look at the amount of land we're going to now open up on the other side. And what we're going to do with those lands, we're going to lease those lands to very, very big corporations that are going to put in place solid technology and infrastructure so we can grow an alarming quantity of organic foods to export to the rest of the world, as well as to feed ourselves. So now we're going to move away from all the herbicides and pesticides that are currently damaging our environment. We're going to move away from those herbicides and pesticides, and instead we're going to now have a very clean agriculture, organic agriculture that will allow us to be the organic food capital of the world. Now, this is going to be powerful. You're now talking about thousands of jobs, thousands upon thousands of jobs, billions of dollars in foreign exchange, a much, much cleaner environment, a much more healthier environment, which is going to bring down our healthcare costs, improve the quality of the life of our citizens, our children. We're going to be able to now afford the maintenance of these condo structures. And most importantly, all of these lands now will be held by the citizens. They will be direct shareholders in the companies that as landowners, because they're the real landowners. So now they're going to have shares in this infrastructure, and the profits that come from this will be paid to them in the form of dividends. So you'll be earning passive income. Even if you did nothing, just because you're a Jamaican, and by extension, you're a shareholder, you're now going to benefit from the dividends that comes from these massive organic farms. So you're going to be able to earn from this just because you're a Jamaican. You're going to be able to earn from this just because your government would have made wise choices and build a Jamaica that is sound when it comes on to being an organic agricultural powerhouse, not just in the region, but globally. Now, you might think this is not possible, but I'm going to show you how possible it is. I'm going to show you a video on that as well, so you see how very possible this is. It's amazing, actually, that we have not done this in the last 78 years of self-governance and independence. And it goes to show that the leaders that we have had so far are just lacking in vision, lacking in skill, lacking in ability, lacking in, being interested in really helping the Jamaican people. So now we're going to do it. We're going to have a powerful organic farming industry that is going to lead the world in providing organic foods for international global consumption. As small as we appear to be, we're going to be a big player in the organic food industry and use that to ensure that we can maintain high quality, low to mid density housing that are designed for optimal use of wind, solar, biogas, geothermal energy, while giving our citizens quality residences to live and grow in. This is going to be a major difference, a major shift in Jamaica's economic landscape. But it doesn't stop there. In order for us to ensure that our housing policy succeed and ensure that the Jamaican people have the foundation that they need as individuals to succeed, we have a third element. So the housing is one element, which gives you a housing boom for a period. The organic food production is one element, which gives you a major sustainable economic engine. And the third is going to be our tourism product. We have been underutilizing and misplacing our tourism product for years. So what we're going to do with tourism is we're going to shift the focus away from the all-inclusive industry where you go, to this all-inclusive space and you enjoy it, which nothing is wrong with that. That is fine. We're not going to do away with it. That's going to be there. And we fully support that as one of the product mix. But we need to diversify. We need to diversify into a different kind of tourism, one that engages all of Jamaica and all the people of Jamaica. So in this model, what we're going to do is something that should have been done from day one. Again, I don't know why they haven't done it, but it should have been done from day one. Why don't we make all of Jamaica a tourist destination? So no matter which part of Jamaica you go, you feel like you're in a tourist destination. That's what I'm talking about. So if you go to Tivoli, if you go to Seaview Gardens, if you go to Olympic Way, if you go to Denham Town, if you go to Bacawal, it doesn't matter where in Jamaica you go. The place is designed to look, smell, feel like a tourist destination. You're talking about, in the tourist sector, we currently employ about 170,000 persons in the tourist industry in Jamaica, which is very small, too small. Using this model, we're going to move from 170,000 persons in the tourist industry, so to speak, or directly employed, as they call it, to having a minimum of 500,000 persons directly earning a solid income from tourism. Now, this is going to be a big game changer. This is going to, look what we're just doing here. We are sending our economy through the roof by simply respecting the Jamaican people. by simply believing that we deserve good communities. We deserve good roads. We deserve good sidewalks. We deserve good street lights. We deserve plants and grass manicured and maintained around our community. We deserve to have a decent, clean, good smelling community. Every one of us. And so your government, a UIC government, is going to have that kind of respect for you and pay that kind of attention to every community in Jamaica so that all Jamaicans are living in what looks like a tourist destination. To make this work, we're going to have to change the police force into a police service which is embedded in the community. So now your police officer is not just is not what you see today. It's not an element of brute force and fear. Your police officer is going to become like a social worker who lives in the community that he is representing. He's a part, he or she, is a part of the community, a part of the church, a part of the local clinic, a part of the school community, a friendly neighbor, and somebody that the society, the community looks up to, respects, and honors because of who they are, how they're trained, how they behave. So we change the entry requirement. We can't have, persons who are not mentally equipped to be professionals as police officers. We need to have persons of the highest caliber. So, and we have to pay them now at a level so that they can be respected in the society, because people know that when you're a police officer, you're well paid. The police officer must live in a good home, drive a decent car, be able to pay for his or her children to go to school, be able to eat well and live well, and somebody that is a part of the community infrastructure. He or she must be a key element of the daily hub of the community. So people have disputes, they don't fear to call him or call her to help to resolve the dispute before it gets to something uglier. Yeah. So a complete shift and change of our police force into a police service that will not only serve and protect, but serve, protect, and respect the citizens. And so now you're going to have, again, as I said before, a change in our community. And the change is going to be where we're going to have community again. We're going to have community instead of just having houses and people. We're going to have community. So a vibrant community with a simple thing like a public park. Why don't we have nice, decent public park in all of our communities? Properly fenced, with public washrooms, properly attended to make sure it's clean for the next person that's going to use it. Water fountain for the citizens to get a drink from, a tennis court to play, a little basketball court over there, a small football field, area for the toddlers to go on the monkey bar and play, a sandbox or something more healthy, park benches for the citizens to sit on and enjoy a cool afternoon on Sunday or Saturday, or cool evening after coming home from work and go for a stroll in the park. Maybe a small ice cream parlor at one end, maybe a smoothie stand at another end. Why don't we design our communities to be friendly, to be hospitable, to be humane? Instead, we just have these concrete structures and these dirty streets and these potholes all over the place and these, broken down, old, unattended sidewalks, or no sidewalk at all, missing light, or everything just looks dilapidated, uncared for, unplanned, unmanaged. So what we're going to do is change that. We're going to make Jamaica a managed country. So we're going to have a country that is safe, with a different kind of policing that is going to really get into the community. So it's going to be safe. And one of the ways we're going to make the community safe is by caring for our children. So we don't want to have our children leaving high school, okay? Because the system right now is failing miserably, right? So every year we have about 70% of our students leaving high school being unprepared, ill-equipped for the world in which they find themselves, to the point where the Prime Minister is now looking to import skilled labor, because after 78 years, they have not been able to create a country where we have the skilled labor that we need. And those that were here maybe migrate. So we have to change that. So we have to begin by bringing the whole plan together. If you notice, I'm not here just talking about housing and in isolation and giving you some pie in the sky numbers to say we're going to build 8,000 new houses over 5 years or 2,000 new units over 1 year. No, we need to have a comprehensive plan that is interconnected and integrated to ensure that Jamaica is well managed, well cared for, so that we can actually have a decent country to live in. So back to my earlier point about our children, I want to start with our basic school. We need to change the way basic school happens. This is the most critical years of a child's life, from age 3 to 6 before they go to primary school. But more important than that, from the time the child is conceived and even before the child is conceived, what kind of parent are we talking about? Are the parents healthy? Are they educated? Do they have good moral, ethical, decent values? So we have to make sure we prepare our children to be parents. We have to make sure our school system are teaching them how to manage themselves in life. Yeah? You have to make sure that the student graduates with 3 things intact. Number 1, they need to understand themselves, mind, body, and personality. Mind, body, and character. Mind, body, and spirit. They must truly, fully understand their constitution. What makes them human? What is the purpose of being a human being? How should one conduct one's life for optimal living? Understanding your health, your body, how your body works, how to maintain a healthy mind and a healthy body, and how to maintain healthy relationships. Spousal relationship, parental relationship, general family relationship, business relationship. So they have to master not only themselves, they have to master human behavior and human relations to reduce the unnecessary conflicts we have and the wrong way of solving conflicts. Then they have to learn about money, the science of money, the history of money, how to manage money, what is a good monetary system versus a bad one, the politics of money, political economy, so that they can understand when they're being tricked by politicians, so they can make good voter decisions, good civic decisions. But I was trying to say that we need to begin this at the early childhood stage by first make sure prenatally the mother understands how to care for her body and the father understands how to care for the mother, so that the child and himself, so that the child they bring into this world is as optimal as possible. And then they have to know how to care for the child. You know, what kind of diet, what kind of social interactions, sounds, the music, the whole family relationship. So we have to re-engineer our society, not by force, by the way, but by educating those who are willing to learn. Provide them the tools, the means, the access. Yeah. And so once we address, and again, you're doing multiple things, right? We're not doing one and then the other. You're doing many things simultaneously. But to address the basic school situation, you want to make sure that the teachers that are teaching at the basic school actually know how to teach children, actually understand how children learn, childhood behavior, how children mature. We have suffered greatly as a nation because we have damaged our kids from basic school. From the very basic school level, we damaged them. The amount of beating that we used to get. You have, teachers who don't know what they're teaching. They're just there. They're placed in front of a child and they're given power over innocent child who doesn't know anything. And they damage the children. So we have to intervene now and help the basic schools to have access to tools to bring our teachers up. Our goal in the longer term is to make sure that those who teach our children have a minimum of a master's degree in the area that they're teaching. So if you're teaching children at the basic school level, you must have a master's degree in early childhood education and understanding how to properly train, educate, and help a child to develop within that early childhood, parameter. But we have to be creative about it. We can't follow the old-fashioned method of education either. So we have to now create what I like to call a digital library that is, for the most part, free. It allows citizens to tap into structured courses that they can take online. And of course, there are sessions they can go to in person sometimes. But you come to this thing and you learn. So a person at the basic school level, for example, you'll allow them to go in and take courses at their own leisure. And as they take them, you provide incentives for taking them. And as they take the courses and pass those incentives and pass those courses, they get an incentive. They get a reward for that. And so without using a stick, you encourage people, without force or fraud, you encourage people to build themselves up so that they can participate at a higher level of society. Yeah. And so now you have, basic school teachers who now may not know what they're doing will now have an easy, accessible way to know what they're doing and gradually build their own competences and transmit that to our children. And over, different years, the level of learning, both for the teacher and the students, are increasing. And the population in total is now benefiting tremendously. So you have addressed now the basic school, and that carries over into the primary. You want your teachers there to be at the master's level at a minimum. And again, they're now building quality graduates at the primary level. Because here's the problem we have in Jamaica. The child goes to school at 3 years old, maybe. Much damage is done at age 3 to 6. Then you graduate that problem to the primary school, where they spend another 5 years? What is it? Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 years. Yeah. So 3 plus 6, 9. A lot of failure took place during that additional 3 years, and the 9 years was 9 years now of failure, right? And then they go off now to a high school, and they spend another 5 years in high school, and so now you have 14 years, 14, 15 years, depending, even 16 years, depending on where the cutoff happens, and they come out into society completely unprepared for life. That is just insane. Think about it. It's absolutely insane for you to take a human being for 14, 15, 16, 17 years, and they come out not having the core competences to be an effective human being. We're not even talking just about reading and writing. You must be able to read with understanding. You must be able to analyze, to reason, to forecast, to design, to create something, to produce something of value for society, right? And you must be able to work in teams, work on your own. You must be able to compute. You must be able to, analyze and figure things out. But unfortunately, that's not what we have. And then some of us go on to university and spend another 3 to 4 years, depending on the kind of course you're taking. And still, when you look at the Jamaican productivity, it is still way down because we're doing the wrong things. Let me tell you a story, a personal story. When I left Jamaica as an engineer and I went to Canada and I was applying for work, I couldn't find any job for about 6 months. Couldn't get any job, at least not in the area that I thought I should be employed in. And I applied for many jobs, and they keep telling me either I am overqualified or I'm underqualified. I was a trained engineer here in Jamaica, but in Canada, when I applied for different jobs, which are comparable to my competences, I thought, they told me I was underqualified or overqualified. Yeah. And so I got called to one company, and on my resume I told them I know how to use a lathe a lathe machine. I used lathe when I was in both at St. Andrew Technical High School. I used the lathe machine. You make a screw, you make a bar, you make so on. And I had used the lathe as well when I was at UTech. So I went and I told them I could use the lathe. And so the man called me and he said, all right, come here. And him say, show me how you use the lathe. And in the room, there were a number of machines in the room, but I did not know which of those machines was a lathe because none of them looked like the archaic, old-fashioned lathe that I used in Jamaica. We had the like little horseback looking thing, and you had the chuck, and you put it in and you wind it up and you put the piece together, and then you do your thing manually. What they had was a PLC, which I knew nothing about when I went to Canada. So this was a very different looking machine where you don't really do the kind of dirty work that I would have done in Jamaica using a lathe. It's a nice machine, and you go there and you need to know how to program it. And you go and you punch a few buttons, and the robotic arm would bring down the metal, do the connection. There's a glass over it. You're safe and protected. And the machine, you just program what motions you want the machine to take, and it will do all the work precisely and in a fraction of the time it would have taken me using the regular lathe, and with precision. That's when I realized how completely backward I was, that I thought I was qualified. And that man that day was very kind, by the way. It was very nice of him to show me why he's telling me, or many of them are telling me I'm underqualified, or sorry, overqualified, well, under in this case, So we have to really change this, yeah? We have to really change the system. Jamaica is very, very backward on a number of fronts when it comes down to preparing our people for the 21st century. We're not prepared. We're way behind, and that is why they're talking about bringing in technical skills. And we're not just behind sometimes on the technical skills. We're also behind on the work ethic. We're behind on the relational side. How do we relate to our employer? How do we relate to our fellow employees? How do we work in teams? So that's why the UIC plan, which I know the topic tonight is about property ownership and making it easier. This is the way we make property ownership easier. It's not simply by making a grand declaration of we're going to give everybody a house. No, we have to have an economic plan that includes education, that includes national security, that includes economics, and which includes social development on a whole. Now, I saw somebody in the comment section saying, it's funny what you're accused of, I saw somebody saying that, I think the person said it's trickle-down economics, and another said it's socialism. So it's a mix, right? Because it's kind of funny. It's if it's socialism, then it can't be trickle-down because trickle-down is considered capitalism. So which one is it? Am I talking socialism? Am I talking capitalism? What is it? I tell you what I'm talking. I'm talking pragmatism. You have to move away sometime from the labels and get what works. What is it that works to create the society that we need? And the fundamental thing about the UIC is that our philosophy is based on protecting your individual liberty. None of the other models, whether it is socialism, capitalism, or whatever you're talking about, they allow somehow for the powers that be to take away your sovereignty, while the UIC is committed to protecting your sovereignty. That is the foundation of our existence as a political movement, to protect your personal sovereignty. But let me continue. So if we take the school situation and we build now the school in the ways that I've just described, from basic school to primary to high school. Now, before we get to that, what you might call utopia, there's an intervening period, which is we still have a bad school system today that's putting out, some problems. So what the UIC is going to do, we're going to make sure that every single child leaving school, every single one, if they're not going into a post-secondary program, university, trade, whatever it is, if they're not going into a post-secondary program or into a business of their own making or a business with their parent or whatever, if they're not going into that, we are going to make sure that every child goes immediately into an apprenticeship position in a workplace where they're learning to work and they're being paid for that work. So they're taken off the streets completely. None of our children will be allowed to be on the street wandering aimlessly. There won't be any squeegee kids on the street. There won't be any child going home, graduating from school and sitting at home doing nothing. There won't be loitering on the road. They're going to be in a works program, a full works program they're going to be in. And so we're going to help the parents to better manage their students, their children, by ensuring that when they finish high school, if they're not going into a post-secondary program or something else of comparable quality, they're going to go to work with a company. So we'll have a public-private partnership, if you will. They're going to go into a company, have a full-time job, wake up every morning, bathe, put on the clothes, go to work, learn on the job, master the tasks in the company, and watch their income rise as they master new tasks and as they deliver and perform. And then they can transition into anything else of their choosing. So that takes care of the education side. Now notice how we're building the economy at the same time. Once these young people are in a earning capacity and working and adding value and building their skills and building their knowledge, it is building the economy, which is adding to our GDP and adding to our human capital. So the education part is good. We have the community policing part that's working. You might say to yourself, so what's happening with the army at that time? Well, we're going to repurpose the army so that it does what an army should do, especially in a country like Jamaica, which is not going to war on a regular basis with anyone, if any at all. So we're going to mobilize our army to become more active, not passive. So it's going to actively patrol and protect our borders on the sea and on land and at the customs. They're going to be the front line in the customs system, the front line in bordering our land border, and on the front line in monitoring and protecting our coastal waters. What this is going to do, it is going to ensure that nothing that shouldn't come into the country gets in, and nothing that shouldn't leave the country gets out. It's going to bring a certain level of discipline and checks and balance to our ports. So now you're going to have the army on the front end, the civilians in the middle, doing the custom duties piece in the middle, and then you have the police at the back end that checks anything that comes afterwards. So the end result is going to be our country is going to be locked down when it comes on to illegal things, illegal guns, illegal ammunitions, anything illegal getting in and anything illegal getting out. So it's going to become a very secure country. Less guns on the road, less ammunitions, illegal ammunitions, less chances of you being killed by being shot. And remember, we have mopped up all the young people and moved them into either post-secondary studies, or they're into the workforce, earning and growing their competencies at the same time. So we have dealt with the education, we have dealt with the community policing, re-embedding the police in the community, back that community spirit, even by the housing design, the clean environment, the manicuring of our entire country, making all of it a tourist destination. So you don't go to when you go to Elam, it's the same nice looking tour. It might be a different brand of nice looking, because some parts of Jamaica have different features. So you want to work around those features and make them into the attraction that they should be. But you go to Elam in Northeast St. Elizabeth, or to Braze River, it's going to be a nice place. Or you go to Balaclava or Silo, or you go to Newmarket, or any one of those, any place in Jamaica, Nain over there, anywhere you go, it's going to be now well developed and well managed. Now that's going to be a significant amount of jobs again. So if you notice what's happening, we're now bringing down the need for people to be involved in scamming and stealing and corruption, because we're giving people opportunity to earn a decent living, which everybody wants. Almost everybody wants a decent living. They don't want to have to steal. Yeah. And so we have now fixed the housing problem, what I described, complemented it with our education program, further complement that with our policing, community policing program, fully complements it with the community tourism program that allows the entire country to be a tourist destination. But it's not the tourists we're putting first, we're putting we first. We the people first. And the tourists now come and take a piece and enjoy a piece of it. We're going to bring the tourists now into the community, into the homes. They can now taste the indigenous Jamaican. And it's safe for them to go, because now the all-inclusive border shifts the walls of Sandals to the walls of Jamaica. So the entire Jamaica now becomes Sandals, yeah, or any other hotel that you want to refer to, or all-inclusive. So rather than you have to go in through the gates of Sandals and experience this lovely space, you will now enter the gate of Jamaica. So when you fly into the airport, from the air looking in, you already see the and can't wait to jump out. You land on Tarmac, you're feasting, your eyes are seeing this beautiful oasis, this beautiful Garden of Eden. You come off and you traverse through the airport, and the washroom is clean and smells good and nicely designed. The reception you get is the best quality. You start to be entertained from the moment you come off the airplane. And you drive out of the airport. And when you drive out of the airport, you can't tell that you're out of the airport. You still think you're inside the nice airport zone, because the road outside is the same. The flowers along the street is the same. The grass that is cut and manicured is the same. You just have different combination of flora and fauna. You have different combination of trees and so on. And the architecture, you'll see the creativity of Jamaicans in how we we cut and manage the greenery, the lawns, the floral arrangements on the light poles, and the way we have our lights and all of that. So you just feel like you're in heaven. You're not driving out of the airport and then getting into this smelly zone and seeing garbage all over the place and these old zinc fences and ugly looking stuff. Now you're going to see a beautiful Jamaica from end until you get to your destination, whether you're staying in an Airbnb at somebody's home, or you're going to one of the all-inclusive resort, or you're just going to camp out in some kind of the hills or whatever. The whole experience is one that is safe, that is clean, that is orderly, that looks good, that smells good, that feels good, right through. So if you're a Jamaican coming back home, you're proud. And if you're a foreigner coming here for the first time, you don't want to leave. You want to come back year after year. So our repeat business will go up. But more than that, you're now going to push your tourist arrivals up from 3 million a year to 12 million a year, 24 million a year. You won't have room enough now to receive the amount of tourists coming in. And because they're spending the money at the grassroots level and they're eating Jamaican food, our yam, our banana, our dasheen, our breadfruit, our ackee, our mangoes, our cherry, our apple, our sweet sop, because they're eating grown and made in Jamaica food, now that money is staying here. Yes, if they go to the all-inclusive, they might still be getting some imported food. But when you come to the indigenous homes, the people of Jamaica's home, now you're going to enjoy Jamaica to its fullest. You're going to be entertained, you're going to eat, you're going to be able to stay up late and hear the stories, participate in the dance, go to the various festivities, and you're just going to love it. You're not going to want to leave the country. And then you're going to come back over and over. When everybody said, we're going again for your vacation, back to Jamaica. But they said, but last year and the year before, that's where you went. Yes, man, but I was only able to go to Portland. I want to go to St. Mary. I want to go to Clarendon. I want to go to St. Elizabeth, and so on and so on and so on. It's not a few little destinations now. It is, and then you feel safe, So because they feel so safe, all of the fear and stuff, that's not a factor anymore. And because Jamaica is now richer, nobody now want to get into nothing. Nobody now want to risk doing bad things and lose their freedom and lose their life or whatever, because we're going to be so focused on maintaining the quality that we have produced. So again, we deal with housing. We have a good housing product now. We have we're now the organic food capital of the world, exporting massively. Now I want to show you why all that I'm telling you we can do. I want you now to see why everything I'm telling you we can do. Watch this little video. You're going to see that if they can do it, we can do it too, and we can do it better. We can do it too, and we can do it better. I want you to watch this and tell me if we can't do this. Okay?
Public housing is often considered low-income crime, but it's a totally different story in Singapore. Government apartments in Singapore are clean, safe, and well-maintained, and about 80% of Singaporean households live in them. Singapore is also one of the few countries in the world to achieve almost full home ownership. Over 90% of the city's household homes. But it wasn't always this way. Here's how Singapore fixed its housing problem. In 1959, when Singapore obtained governance from the British, the city was having a severe housing crisis, struggling to accommodate its growing population. In 1960, Singapore's first Prime Minister and his government set up the Housing and Development Board, or HDB, a public housing agency with a mission to build rental units for the poor. At the time, many Migrants, including those from Malaysia, were living in unhygienic slums. Increasing racial tension between Chinese and Malays, the HDB had a hard time convincing them to leave their informal settlements for new high-rises. Then came the still unexplained fire which broke out in the squatter settlement of Bukit Ho Swee on the 25th of May 1961. An area of 400,000 square meters was razed, 4 people were killed and around 16,000 left homeless. The government successfully rehoused all of the fire victims within a year and built new housing on the site of the disaster in the next 5 years. Its speedy reaction won over the people and paved the way for future public housing projects.
Singapore must be one of the few places in the world where a statutory board satisfactorily completed everything it set out to do in its first 5-year plan.
By 1965, the HDB managed to build over 51,000 apartments, rehousing 400,000 people, a quarter of the then population, solving the housing shortage. Apart from renting out apartments, HDB also started to sell them in 1964. Singaporeans are required to save part of their salaries in a state-managed plan called Central Provident Fund. At first, the fund only provided for retirement. Then, in 1968, the government allowed the use of the fund for housing expenses, helping more people become homeowners. Unlike many other countries, Singapore's public housing is not only for the poor. Instead, it caters to the masses. Citizens within certain income ceilings can buy various types of property, from basic 2-room apartments to upmarket units in condominiums with a swimming pool and a gym. Their prices are usually 20 to 30% cheaper than those in the private market. But you've got to apply and order the apartment first, then wait several years for it to be built. Also, you can't sell it until you finish the 5-year minimum occupation period. Today, HDB has planned, designed and built over 1 million apartments spreading over the city-state. The percentage of people living in public housing has grown from 9% in 1960 to 82% in 2016, and the home ownership rate has also increased rapidly with the rise of Singapore's economy. Singapore's public housing is considered as one of the world's best, but some see it as a way of social control. For instance, quotas ensure a mix of Chinese, Indians and Malays in each HDB block, aiming to carefully integrate ethnic groups and prevent the formation of a volatile racial enclave. But still, a mighty agency with effective policies and strong political will has fixed Singapore's housing crisis and improved the living conditions of millions.
Okay, so I'm talking to myself. I was still muted. My apologies. Do you think we can achieve what Singapore did? Can we do what they did and can we do it better? Or are we doomed to being a failed state? Are we doomed to following the pattern of the last 78 years where we get grand announcements from our politicians, they make us beautiful promises, and then we butter for 5 years or 4 years, then another election is called and they give us some gimmicks, and then we elect one of the two and they fail again and we do the same thing over and over again. Can we do better? You can type in the comment box, type yes we can, if you think we can do better. If you think that we the Jamaican people can do better and we want the UIC to help us to do better, then you go ahead and type yes we can in your comment box, because I strongly believe we can. I have every confidence in our ability if we have the right leadership. If we have the right leadership and the right plan, we can do better. And I believe in the UIC we have the right leadership and we have the best plan for Jamaica. It's very clear that all of what I've said to you before will find its way back to the people of Jamaica It just won't come under the label of the UIC because we don't have a lot of coverage for obvious reasons, which I've spoken about before. But we need to stay focused on building our membership, building our donor base, and sharing our message across the country, and we will be able to do it. I believe we can, and if you believe we can do it. And so I want you to look at the next video now, because the first video watched from Singapore, it showed you how through great leadership of the government, they were able to create a housing solution that brings their home ownership to over 90%. In fact, today, the actual figures today is somewhere in the 92 to 95% home ownership. We in the UIC have set an ambitious goal, which we know we can achieve, of 98% home ownership. I know we can achieve this if we have the right leadership and we have the right solution. We have people who are not merely politicians, but they are visionaries and architects, engineers, smart people who understand economics and who care about Jamaica and are not here to simply line their pockets. If we have that kind of leadership, we can do this. And that's the kind of leadership I am offering. That's the kind of leadership the UIC is offering. So we're going to build the housing stock of Jamaica in the right way, while balancing that with economic development and social development that gives us the quality Jamaica that we need. Having said that, I want you to now see how our organic food capital of the world plan is going to work. I'm going to show you in the next video how a small country did exactly what I'm talking about and how it has made them the second largest producer and exporter of food in the world. How does a small country in a cold climate manage to design such an effective system of food production that makes them the second largest producer and exporter of food in the world? I can tell you this, after you watch this video, you're going to be 100% convinced that what I'm talking about is exactly what Jamaica needs. And here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. We in Jamaica have far more than what they have when they started. We had far more, and we have far more in assets, real assets, tangible assets, God-given assets, the right climate, the amount of land, the type of land, the nutritional value of our land. We have it. And we also have the brains to do it. We just have to get it done. So here, watch this one, and you will see what I'm talking about. You're going to see how everything I'm just describing can be done and will be done under a UIC government, because we believe in the people of Jamaica. We believe in the system that we have designed for the people of Jamaica. And all we need now is for you to give us the support to get this done. That's all we need. So let's take a look at how the people of the Netherlands did the impossible and how we can do it too. Take a look.
The Netherlands is a small country. It's so small you could fit it into the US 270 times. But it's big when it comes to making food. Remarkably, it has the second largest agricultural exports in the world, mainly through being able to produce vast amounts of food on tiny plots. Here's how the Dutch learnt to feed the world. The Netherlands isn't exactly designed for mass farming. Because of limited space, farmers have learned to eke out as much as possible from the land. With a third of the country under sea level, the Dutch mastered how to make land using levees and built windmills to drain marshland to create fertile soil. This area just outside of Amsterdam, Flevopolder, is the largest artificial island in the world and didn't exist half a century ago. Nowadays, over half the ground in the Netherlands is used for agriculture. It makes more food than its people can eat. But there was a time when the Dutch faced starvation. 1944, and the Allies begin to liberate Europe. The Nazis occupy the Netherlands and begin a blockade of the north. It created a food shortage so severe the Dutch government encouraged its people to forage for acorns and chestnuts. Tens of thousands perished from famine. After the war, as the Dutch rebuilt, ensuring food security became a priority. The issue was important to the new Minister for Agriculture, Sicko Mansholt, a former farmer and a resistance fighter in the war. He'd begin to drive changes that would turn farming into big business. Before the war, Dutch farms operated like those in most other countries. Small plots had a few livestock and produced a mixture of seasonal crops to service local populations. Mansholt wanted mass production and built on a decades-long system of state support for farming. He pursued a policy of land consolidation. Larger, more productive farms were encouraged to absorb smaller, less profitable farms. It was all about using less labour to improve yields. In 1963, the government launched a fund to help older farmers sell up and to help young farmers start new businesses. State funding into research and technology such as fertilizers and machinery followed, and thanks to aid from the US Marshall Plan, numbers of tractors rose quickly, helping farmers work more land. Dairy production grew fast as cooling tanks and milking machines were invented. In 1960, the average Dutch dairy cow would produce 4,200 kilograms of milk per year. In 2007, this had nearly doubled to 7,880 kilograms. Oversupply of milk wasn't a problem. The dairy board created Joris Driepinter, and he encouraged kids to drink plenty of it.
Nou, heel gewoon hè, 3 glazen melk per dag.
But technical innovation didn't stop with machines. The Dutch pioneered specialist greenhouses, creating conditions that would result in many more plantings than ever before.
These greenhouses are in the southwestern section of the Netherlands, and they enable farmers to grow crops the year round. With temperature and humidity carefully controlled, an elaborate water system keeps the crops properly moist.
If you were to put all of the Dutch greenhouses together today, they'd cover an area the size of Manhattan.
Farming under glass, another example of Dutch ingenuity.
Then, a huge discovery in 1959. The vast Groningen gas field would offer greenhouse horticulture a huge boost. Farmers profited from the cheap energy as their crops benefited from the heat and the added CO2. The Netherlands now has the world's highest yields per hectare for cucumbers, chili peppers and tomatoes, all carefully picked for their profitability. Reducing water use is part of making efficiencies too. Today, some farms use just 4 litres to grow a kilo of glasshouse tomatoes. The global average is 214 litres. All this built on a rich culture of farming that already existed. The Dutch were master breeders of plants and livestock and were a nation of traders thanks to the ports at Rotterdam and Amsterdam. The state built on this expertise to transform farming, including a focus on education and research, as part of a holistic approach to benefiting the entire industry. It hasn't all been good though. The Dutch have been criticised for getting ahead with over-intensive methods and using synthetic fertilisers to boost production. They're now working to change this. In 1999, the country used more fertiliser than any other European country, spreading on average 500 kilos per hectare. By 2014 though, that figure had more than halved. By working together, farmers, scientists, businesses and the state turned the Netherlands into a world leader in modern farming. Its knowledge and state-of-the-art technology will be vital in tackling the future of a rising global population with billions more mouths to feed.
Okay, so you've seen what the Netherlands have done, how they've taken, whoa, 1 second here, just a minute. Yeah, you've seen how the Netherlands have taken their small plot of land in a winter environment and turned that into a massive opportunity for their people. And if you notice, they integrated business, scientists, education, government, all working together to create the kind of output that we need. And I believe we can do the same thing right here in Jamaica, and we can do it better. And so the UIC has put together this solid plan, end to end, from our basic schools to our primary schools, to our high schools, to our colleges, to our business places, to our homes. And we're not going to just have condos. Condos is the way to make sure we don't have urban sprawl, and we provide affordable, accessible, clean, decent homes for the vast majority of Jamaicans who are low income and need an opportunity to get out of that low income status. So a person who is able to afford something different, we're not going to stop you. The government is not here to stop anyone from doing whatever they think is best for them. Remember, the UIC is the government that protects your individual liberty, your right to your life, to your liberty, and to your property. You have the final say in what you're going to do with your life. What the government is doing is creating an opportunity for those people who have been severely marginalized. You have a lot of Jamaicans who are living in squalor right as we speak, and they have no hope of escaping that squalor. They have been given all kinds of promises. The NHT has raised the bar, the income threshold bar, for you to access an NHT loan. Yes, they have raised the amount that they will lend from 5.5, I think, to 6.5, but the typical decent home now, is going to run you 2, 3, 4 times that amount. It means you have to do all kinds of things to try to qualify, as opposed to the UIC model where everybody qualifies. We're not going to have a system that continues to marginalize the poor. Instead, we're going to empower the poor. So every poor family, like my mother was, when I was a little boy, we lived in that one-room house, one room, no inside bathroom, no separate kitchen, no separate bedroom. We were in one room, about 12 by 12. I want a poor single mother like my mother was, to be able to have a decent 2 or 3 bedroom home in a beautiful condo, nice balcony. Downstairs they have the community center and all the amenities that will make for a healthy and decent living. And it's all being maintained as part of a total package that mixes different income stratas of people, and the economy allows all of them to live peacefully and decently and in order. So we're going to work on that. We're going to make that a reality. And so we're going to take the people out of the ghettos, get rid of the zinc fences. So no more ghettos, no more garrisons, no more squatting. And we're going to clean up the country and give the Jamaican people that solid environment that they can all be proud of, and tourists can be happy to visit, and the entire economy can boom as a result. So, time for questions. What questions do you have for me? We have approximately 12 minutes to take questions. So let me see what we have here. I am seeing question 1. What are we going to do with all the criminals that already embedded in the country? Very good question. We are going to provide an opportunity for many criminals to stop being criminals, and we're going to have a police service that will make it easier for us to capture and incarcerate and punish those who still want to be criminals. But we're going to create an environment that makes it less necessary for you to be a criminal. If you're let's say an older person who still have some working life in you, or a workfare program which provides work for adults in the same way that we provided for the young people, will help many persons to not have to resort to a life of crime, or help them to come out of a life of crime. We have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission with an amnesty program that's going to help us to narrow the gap as well and move people out of criminality. Next question. How will people with capture lands be handled? Good question. We are anybody who has captured any land, it will depend on the circumstances. So if it's private property that belongs to somebody else, then obviously we will have to honor the private property rights of the owner if we can't come to some kind of negotiation that allows us to acquire the lands and do a proper conversion to help those people. If it's on crown lands, if those lands are no longer suitable for what we want to do in organic farming, then we will work with the people and convert that into homes. But very likely in many cases, we're going to have to simply relocate the persons into the new facilities we're talking about and, repurpose those areas to work effectively. But we'll do it on a case-by-case basis. We're not going to, have a one-size-fit-all approach. We're going to make sure we try to work with the sensitivities, the whole, human factor. Sometimes where people are living in these squatter communities, they may already have some kind of connection to the area that would make it logical to keep them there and fix the situation. In other cases, it may be logical to relocate and use that as a fix. Next question. Who is controlling the shipping ports? Is it the Chinese? How do we know if they're not bringing in illegal stuff? How do we deal with that? Very good question, Robin, Jared. So under the UIC system, our shipping ports will fall under the Army. So we're going to have our Army fully engaged in managing the ports. You'll have two other lines of defense. So we have a 3-line of defense system. The Army at the front end, the civilians in the middle, and the police at the back end. So when we're finished, those 3 lines of defense would really reduce the risk of things coming in that shouldn't come in, and vice versa. Next question. How would we have the liberty to build and live in a bungalow style? Oh, would we have the liberty to build and live in a bungalow style house and not high rise? Absolutely. The high rise is really the government solution, which will be taken up by maybe 70% of the population. The other 30% will be a mix of other kinds of homes. There are other people with their homes already. A part of our housing solution is to help those who already have homes to finish those homes. If they're not finished or if they're in a dilapidated state, we will invest in their completion and in their refurbishing. And of course, we have an economic model to pay for that as well, that allows the owner of those homes to continue there. So, and of course, a person with the means will be able to buy whatever they want. If you want to buy a nice big 5 or 10,000 square foot home on a hill somewhere, that is your choice. The UIC is not a communist or socialist government that is going to take away your right to choose. All we're doing is making sure that those who have been disenfranchised for years, those who have been marginalized by a bad economic model, a bad system of governance, and have been pushed down to the bottom, living in squalor, living in sewage streets and sewage in the streets. We just want to clean up all of that. So we're here to help the poor people get out of the mess that they have been pushed into, or life has pushed them into, whichever the reason is. We're going to help everybody out of that. Those who don't want to be helped, that is their choice. There might be some problems if we're doing some relocations, but in general, Jamaicans will be able to choose where and how they want to live, as long as certain cleanliness factors and hygiene and stuff is maintained. Yes. Next question, please. Okay, Douglas Allen, how to do serious on the ground campaigning within the next 12 months, or thinking about solving Jamaica's housing problem over the next 10 years. Which of these problems must be focused on first? Well, it's not a matter of first, Douglas Allen. The people want to hear what are the plans of the UIC, so we have a duty of care to present to people so they know what plans are. We are not like other parties who release our manifesto 2 weeks or less before an election. We release our manifesto and our plans way in advance and give people a chance to understand and digest them and then make a choice. The UIC is very different from the other two parties. We don't have $300 million waiting to come to us from the private sector. So we have to tell you exactly what we're doing to hopefully convince you to invest your time and your money in helping us to become Jamaica's next government. So I'm working very hard to educate the Jamaican people about the UIC's plans so that the Jamaican people here at home and abroad can get involved in funding the movement. If I could not do this and not spend the time planning and developing solutions, and I could be spending that time just running up and down, but then when you ask me what we plan to do, I would not be able to tell you anything substantive. And maybe that's what some people want. They would like for me to, just be giving basic sound bites and giving empty promises that are not carefully thought out. Instead, we're spending the time and have spent the time to carefully develop plans and policies to create a new Jamaica. And so that's what you're hearing from us. Next question, please. Adrian Enriquez, Mr. Patterson, only you can, as Prime Minister, get the country to be smart, forward-thinking, and pragmatic about getting this import-addicted and materialistic country to produce and do so efficiently. You would never see Andrew or Mark show this to the people. Thank you very much, Adrian. Much appreciated. I see where Douglas Allen, who is my opposition spokesman on this program, is saying that I'm preaching to the choir. No, I'm not. I think many of you may have heard some of what I'm saying before, and you, Mr. Allen, because you may be a long-standing follower who have followed most of, if not all of what my presentations, you are well informed and well educated on the issue. But there are others who might not be as informed as you are, so it's okay. But I do share your concern though, Mr. Allen. Your concern is that we need to have more boots on the ground, as they say, and that will come. A part of that boots on the ground comes with the funding that we have to do it. As I told you a million times before, I, like all of you on this live, or most of you, or maybe all, I have a full-time job like everybody else. So I am not a full-time politician. I have my business that I am running, which requires my full-time attention. And I give, believe it or not, like from this morning I woke up until now, I've been doing UIC business every other few minutes of the day. You would be amazed at how much time it takes to try to organize our people into a formidable force. What amazes me is how two white men were able to organize two political parties that have withstood the test of time for almost 80 years in one case and over 80 years in the other case. And it dawned on me that part of it is A, they're built by two white men, and B, those two white men had the support of the colonial masters, and C, the small financial elite fully backs them. All the other parties from Marcus Garvey to now has failed simply because they do not have the blessings of the colonial masters, and they did not have the blessings of the powerful moneyed elites. And so I'm trying to do the impossible here. And I've invested a lot of time and energy in it to my detriment. I mean, if you see the kind of onslaughts I'm suffering and the persecution, it's amazing. But I'm still trying, and my focus is to really get you, Mr. Allen, and all of us to realize that bashing me is not really the answer. The answer is for you to get involved. If you think that there's something that I'm not doing that I should do, come and test it now. Come and do it and see how well it is. Come and show me. So you can fly down if you're away and take a month off and come and demonstrate to me how it is. Of course, that might still not be representative of the situation because you'll be on vacation maybe. But if you have to live your life and try to do politics, it's an amazing thing, right? And you remember, if it depends on your motivation, because some politicians are in this for gain, meaning when they get into office, they have some serious plans as to how they're going to recover all that they have spent. So their motivations are very, very different. And so what they're willing to do is very different. But anyways, next question, please. Mr. Patterson, what are your thoughts on having a national food stockpile or seed bank in ensuring that Jamaica has some level of food security, especially during external shocks and stresses like climate change and price increases? Absolutely. Adrian, you make an excellent point. The UIC, part of our plan, which I didn't speak about tonight, is to have a national national seed bank of all the organic seeds. So a national bank, a massive storage facility where we store all the good seeds that can be replanted and replanted. That is a serious food security issue that we need to address. So the UIC has that in its plans. A part of the food security is what I just described earlier. And if we become a massive producer of organic foods and can export in a big way to the rest of the world, that's food security for us, because we can always eat more of what we, if there's a problem globally, we would have had more production to gain from. And using the permaculture technologies and techniques that we're going to also employ in our forestry area is going to further strengthen our food security going forward. But great point. Thank you so much. Next question. Good night. Wonderful vision you share, says Lamon Sage. I wonder, will the condos, homes be large enough land space for individual farming, and how can average Jamaicans take part in this vision forward so far? What can we do? All right, so the condo homes will not have spaces for individual farming. You will have little areas that we call community farms, which the community can engage in. And again, remember, not everybody wants to do this. So those who want to do it will participate. Those who don't want to do it won't participate. One of the things we're going to do is farm up all the areas around our highways and street. So you'll be driving under a bridge or over and over a pass. You're going to notice under the area that was previously bush that we have to be cutting. Instead, it's going to be a suitable food source will be planted there. Whatever makes sense when you check out the soil type and the sunlight access and the water quality and whatever, then we'll put stuff in. So all kinds of little plots of community farms will be done. When I was in China, I was so impressed when I was going through on the high-speed rail, and you just zoom from one place to the next, and something you get to a point, you're going over a bridge, and you'll just see it's a little underpass, like you have the bridge at the top and you have the road under, and little underpass here, and you'll see a little old lady in her broad hat, and she's tending a little field that may look like scallion. Maybe it's not scallion, or whatever they had there, some kind of vegetable, and just one lady, and it's a small area, relatively small. Maybe I would say maybe 5 to maybe 15,000 square feet, and she is 15,000 square feet, and she's in this area, and she's just tending to the plants under there. So that's the kind of thing I have in mind. The average Jamaican will take part now in this vision. Now is to help the UIC to win the election. So going to our website, uicjamaica.com, signing up as a member, donating, paying your membership dues of $10 US, equivalent to 1,000 Jamaican, whatever works, volunteering to sit on a committee or to help in whatever way, marketing, whatever makes sense for you. And then get to work promoting, sharing, get people to subscribe to UIC Liberty TV, tell all your friends and family and even your enemies to subscribe to UIC Liberty TV so that they can get this kind of information and much more that we share from time to time. And I'm going to step that up as well. And so, so that's how you can get involved right now. And in the future, you're going to get involved by being a part of the revolution, the whole redoing of Jamaica. It's going to be fun. It's going to be hard work, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a new day in the history of Jamaica. It's going to be our renaissance. Next question, please. So Carby is asking, Mr. Patterson, what are your thoughts on cybernetics, and would you be open to applying it to other aspects of our society? Good question. You have to tell me some more. Tell me more about that. What you mean by applying it to other aspects of our society? I'm not too sure how to answer that question based on the way you have phrased it. So try again. Next question. Unity or else, yeah. Mr. Patterson, would you be interested in setting up a sovereign wealth fund? I think Singapore has one of the largest SWF around. Okay, so the Singapore model is different. The sovereign wealth fund, we have a different model that we're going to use, and it's our tax policy. So our tax policy separates our taxes into two buckets. We're going to eliminate all taxes and bring it down to two buckets. So no property tax, no wholly for hidden taxations and all kind of complexities. We're going to simplify the tax system, very, very simplified and very focused. So we're going to have two taxes, just two. One will be a 10% income tax, which every single citizen is going to pay. And it's 10% on your income from all sources. So wherever you earn money from, wherever you get money from, you're going to pay 10% of that to the government for the purpose of giving you the absolute best country to run the things that government should run. The other tax will be a 10% sales tax, the GCT. So we're going to bring it down from 15% to 10%. That tax is going to be completely dedicated to the social development side. So the 10% income tax is all the infrastructure, security, national defense, all that stuff that is the normal role of government will be over here. The 10% GCT now is going to deal with the abnormal things. It's going to make sure that every child has the nutrition, education, healthcare, and a decent housing that they need to succeed. It's going to make sure that we have beautiful, what do you call it now, community tourism product. It's going to build those homes that we're talking about and help to fund that part of that structure. And that pool is a very big pool. It's a powerful source of revenue if managed properly. So that will be our sovereign wealth fund, pretty much. We're not going to have a separate bucket or another piece that we do. It's just that's 10% of every sales transaction we're getting to eliminate poverty and make Jamaica safe, clean, beautiful, just a magnificent country. That's what your GCT is going to do. While the income tax is going to make sure you have proper policing, proper roads, street lights, very effective armed forces to patrol our borders, manage our customs. So all the basic things that government should do will be taken care of over here. And all the poverty alleviation and social development things will come from the GCT bucket. Next question, please. What will you do about the train service? Ah, wonderful. The UIC is going to invest in a high-speed rail and 100% connected public transit system. So you're going to have a very, very fluid system whereby you can plan your day's journey without fear that you're going to come out and have to figure out what's going on or not get a piece of transportation. So we're going to put a rail system that runs from, east to west, and with some fish bones coming off of it, going north and south into some key areas. From there, now you'll take one of the local transit, whether it's a taxi or a bus, but all of them are going to be on a standardized program which follows a schedule, and none of them are allowed to come off the schedule. So you'll be able to know you're going to get a bus at 5:15 at this location. You're going to get a train that's reaching this point at 2:45. You're going to get a taxi service that's running from here at 8 p.m. and whatever. So very well connected. You'll have an app with all of the information on it. You can plan your journey. You will never have to buy a vehicle again in Jamaica with this new system. You can buy one if you want, because we're not going to stop anybody, but we're going to have a transit system that's fully connected, and all the information will be on your phone. You'll know exactly when the next bus is coming or the next taxi. Of course, if you're taking a private taxi, that's different. That's like an Uber system. But outside of that, the transit system that is public, that's going 24/7, and it is going to be 24/7, because Jamaica is going to become a country that never sleeps. The people will sleep, but you'll always be able to get something at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. It's going to be a completely different Jamaica that is always producing and always on the move. And of course, you now get to plan your lifestyle, when you sleep and so on, and get, eat properly and all of that. But the country is going to be open for business 24/7 for anyone who needs it. The hospital will be available. The ambulance service will be available. We're going to make sure that you have a first-class Jamaica for once. Next question. Oh, by the way, we're also integrating with this a ferry service. So we find that some things are easier to do if you're hopping on a ferry and just getting to another part of the country very quickly. So ferry service, the train service, the bus service, and the taxi service, all integrated on one grid, one app. You can get where you want to go very quickly. Next question from Adrian. Boy, you guys are allowing Adrian to ask all the questions. Mr. Patterson, as food security become increasingly important to the national dialogue, how do you believe that Jamaica better take advantage of the globalization and the opportunities that come with global trade against the backdrop of that global, I can't see the rest, global economy, it seems like? The policy we have, Adrian, of becoming the organic food capital of the world really plugs us into the global agenda in terms of being a major supplier of food around the world. In terms of food security for us, what it means is that we must be able to feed ourselves. So I want to make sure that we are producing all the food we need for ourselves. There are some foods that we're not going to produce because those are better produced by other countries. And so those will be imported if the market desires them. But outside of that, we're going to have the core foods that we want being produced here. Douglas Harper, will the property management companies be part of the government? Not necessarily. The property management companies may be private companies, as well as the, each of the units may be private units, owned by a private company. That's quite fine by us. It's just that the contractual arrangement between the government and the property management company and the unit owners will be such that there are minimum standard, basic SLAs or service level agreements that will ensure that we're protecting the asset and by extension protecting the value, and by extension protecting the interest of the Jamaican people. So that would be the aim. Next question. Next question again from Adrian. As Jamaica continues to reduce its debt to GDP ratio driven by IMF-induced reforms, which began in 2013, how do you believe that Jamaica can put in longer-term measures which will prevent us from getting back to a state of heavy public debt? I imagine I can't see the rest. So the way for us to do that is indeed follow the UIC's new constitution. The new constitution will put a cap on government borrowing. First of all, we're going to change our monetary policy so that the Central Bank of Jamaica actually returns to being the Bank of Jamaica, and the government will borrow from itself instead of borrowing from private bankers at interest. We will only borrow from private lenders when the need is such that it cannot be funded by the localized use of our own money printing facility, because we have to, for example, import something that we can't produce ourselves. So for the services that we need locally and internally, and all of that will be funded by, if there's any need to borrow, it's the government borrowing from itself. The borrowing will be capped so that anything borrowed must be paid back within the generation in which it is borrowed. And the request for borrowing must first be approved by a vote by the people of Jamaica. So we're going to curtail borrowing significantly by having the accountability of the existing politicians be tied to the process of borrowing. We're going to peg the compensation and pensions of the politicians to the performance of the economy. So if you think that you as a leader today can make some dumb decisions and that's going to be paid for by the people of Jamaica while you still get a prime minister's salary as your pension, those days are over, because we're going to peg your pension to the long-term performance of the country. So you're going to share in the pain that you create, if you create any. But for the most part, a lot of the problems that came about in the past, and which we suffered under IMF restrictions in order to get under control, will gradually evaporate due to the UIC's model of governance, or not engaging in deficit spending, and our taxation policy, and our market-driven economy that really puts the economy back in the hands of the people will make a big difference. All right, last question, because it's now a few minutes past my deadline. Okay, what about trading with CARICOM Islands? Wonderful, Scotty, good question. The UIC is pro-Caribbean Federation. So we're going to be pushing for a federation of the Caribbean, a nation of the United States of the Caribbean, if you will, and having all of the Caribbean being a part of one country with a number of states. And we're going to, so it's not just trading. We're talking about national defense. We're talking about our police service. We're talking about our global economic policies. We're talking about international trade. We're talking about development of our peoples as one people. So our school curriculum, Afrocentric, and all of that. So we're fully in favor of what do you call it, CARICOM or something else? We're in favor of a united Caribbean and united Africa, and a link between the Caribbean and Africa and the entire global African diaspora. So we become a place where the African man and woman feel safe and know that they are seen as a part of one family, and that Jamaica will lead the way in bringing all of us together, the Caribbean and Africa, through the UIC. So thanks to all of you. Have a good night. Thank you so much for your patience for being on tonight. Hope you learned a bit more about what the UIC plans to do for Jamaica. And I look forward to your continued support. Please like, share, and subscribe to UIC Liberty TV. Share this with your friends and family. Get them to log on and let them know that we need their help. We have a plan right now where a few nights ago, many of us agreed that we're going to try to raise 1,000 donors, giving a minimum of $25 a month, so that we can have a budget of at least 25,000 US dollars for the month, so that you can see us all over the place. And we need to do this in a hurry. We have to do this now so that we can get across all 14 parishes, all 228 divisions, all 6,200 or 6,300 polling divisions, and get out there and meet all the people, educate the people, mobilize the people, organize the people, so that we can elect a majority of UIC MPs and a majority of UIC councillors. So if you haven't yet done so, please make your commitment, go to our website, become a member or a donor, whichever one you want to be, and make your commitment to give the equivalent of 25 US dollars per month. Of course, if all you can give is 10 or 5, it is still more than welcome. Give what you can. It's just that our plan right now, our fundraising plan, so we can finance a strong UIC, have a strong admin team, a strong marketing team, so we can organize our candidates, train our candidates, recruit more candidates, and you can see us out on the road every day, connecting with the people and building the tent so that we can win the next election. If you are one of those persons who will help us and you think it's a good idea for us to have 1,000 donors giving $25 a month, please go on the website and sign up today. Tell your family, your friends, say this is our time. This is our moment when we own the political party. The other two are owned by the PSOJ oligarchs. Let us, the people of Jamaica, own the UIC and use the UIC to create the Jamaica that we all want to see. Have a good night. God bless you. Until we speak again. Take care.